The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
How are you doing? Welcome back after a long weekend. You are in the lab room again. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. And first, let me apologize for looking so rough. Me and the barber could not get on the same page this weekend. And it's been a tough go of it of late. And so you have to excuse me for the rough and gruff look. But I told myself, if Joe Buck can get away with it, if Joe Buck can do it, why can't I? And so let's go on. And it was so much that happened over the weekend in the NFL that I've set aside a separate episode for the happenings of the weekend, especially one like the past weekend that just went by. There was so many things that went on. I can't cover it in this episode. It just would take too long. And these are already long episodes as it is because of these lab reports and experiments on these teams are so lengthy. And that would just make this episode that much longer. And so I've set aside a separate episode for that purpose of just covering the happenings of the weekend. So with that being said, we move forward into the lab reports. And we are at our last two-a-day, our last two teams in the last division. We will have covered all 32 teams after the completion of today's two teams and their lab reports and experiments. It's been a long, arduous journey through these lab reports and experiments, and I'm so glad you were able to join me. And I'm so glad to finally get done with them and look forward to the season being here and upon us. And it's great to finally reach the end. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's not a train. It's actually daylight. And so we move forward with the Oakland Raiders. And again, the AFC West is like in the NFL, it's like the house on the block. It just doesn't keep maintenance with their house. Everyone else has neatly trimmed grass. It's edged up. The plants and the hedges and shrubs are neatly trimmed. And then you get to the Raiders or you get to the AFC West and their yard looks like crap. The grass is high. It hasn't been cut in over a month. The bushes are all wild and all over the place. The garage door has a crack and a dent in it. And the screen door doesn't have a screen. The Oakland Raiders personify that look, especially in the AFC West. All those things I just mentioned, sort of rough around the edges, that's the Oakland Raiders. And the Oakland Raiders can be described in many ways. And before we go on to what they are or what they aren't, let's talk about the Raiders and their strengths. When you think of the Raiders, the first thing that comes to my mind, if I'm thinking of a strength, is their running game. Raiders, over the last maybe 2.5 seasons, have slowly progressed into a ground and pound football team. And it has become a source of strength for the Oakland Raiders. It started out under former head coach Tom Cable, who is now the offensive line coach out in Seattle. And he came in with the philosophy, him being a former offensive lineman himself and an offensive line coach at heart, that we're going to run the football. We're going to run our offense through the running game and play off of it. And the Raiders did a tremendous job of that in the 2010 season, in which they went 8-8. And so you look at that 8-8 record, and for most teams around the league, it's average, which 8-8 is. It's exactly average. But for the Raiders, that was a step in the right direction. That was supposed to be the season that prompted them and sent them on their way to winning ways. It was supposed to be the start of a new beginning for the Raiders. Optimism was at its highest peak after the 2010 season because the Raiders were scoring points, they were blowing out opponents, and they were running the football. They were the second best rushing offense in the league in 2010, only behind their AFC West counterparts, the Kansas City Chiefs. And so they were running the football down people's throats. You knew what you were getting when you played the Oakland Raiders under Tom Cable in the 2010 season. Problem was he couldn't see eye to eye with Al Davis. The relationship fell apart, and he had to go in 2011. And so Hugh Jackson assumed the position, and he didn't pick up quite where Tom Cable left off, but he did a heck of a job of continuing to run the football. In the absence of Darren McFadden, the Raiders still managed to put forth a group on the field that was seventh in the league in rushing and was able to still run the football at times at will on opponents. And so the Raiders running the football is a strength. They have one of the best young backs in all of football in Darren McFadden. When healthy, he is probably the best game changer we have in this league in terms of running back. Someone that you can hand the football to and in one play have 7 points or 6 points on the scoreboard. He's a threat to take it to the house at any distance. And he seems to be getting better as a runner, more polished and more decisive in his decision-making when running the football. And if he could just stay healthy, the Raiders will be one of the better running teams in the league year in and year out because of his presence on the field. So running the football is a strength for the Oakland Raiders. Now you move forward to the weaknesses, and when talking about the Raiders, they're the definition of self-fulfilling prophecy in the National Football League. You know, back in the 60s and the 70s, back in the AFL in the 60s and in the NFL in the 70s, the Raiders were coined as the bad boys, the National Football League. I mean, everything about their mystique, it speaks, it oozes of bad boy. Even the logo, it looks like this team is supposed to be bad. And that's what they were. They personified, the bad boy image in the 60s and the 70s. And somebody forgot to tell the Oakland Raiders and forgot to give them the memo that the 70s and the 60s are gone. The good days are over. Being the bad boys of the league, that's frowned upon now. It's not a good thing anymore. And so they didn't get the memo. And hence, one of the biggest weaknesses the Oakland Raiders still have is penalties. The Raiders are not among the league leaders in penalties every year. They are the leaders in penalties every year. Okay, this year, they had 163 penalties on offense alone. We're not even talking defense. We're just talking offense. 163 penalties. All right, to give you some perspective, the next closest team was the Seattle Seahawks with 138 penalties. It's a whole 25 penalties away. Okay, we're talking maybe 2.5 games worth of penalties for bad teams. It's a lot of penalties to be ahead of the rest of the pack. But put that aside. What's even more alarming and disconcerting if you're a Raiders fan is the yardage coming from these penalties, stemming from these penalties. The Raiders had over 1,350 yards worth of penalties on the offensive side of the football. Again, to give you perspective, I go back to the next closest team to the Raiders. This time in yardage, the next closest team is the Detroit Lions with over 1,070 yards worth of penalties on the offensive side of the football. The Raiders had over 1,350. We're talking almost 300 more yards worth of penalties. Really? So what that says to me is that when the Raiders get a penalty, they do it up big and in the most egregious fashion possible. So instead of the Raiders just committing a simple holding penalty, they get a clipping personal foul penalty. Instead of the Raiders having a 9-yard completion on 3rd and 7, they get a taunting penalty, 15 yards. Those add up after a while, and after you accumulate so many of those, guess what? You have the Oakland Raiders and their 1,354 yards worth of offensive penalties, which is amazing and not in a good way. What penalties do also is they kill drives. Any momentum, any kind of good feeling you have on a drive, any kind of tempo you might be setting can be diminished and destroyed with one simple holding penalty on 2nd and 7. And what that does is it forces you to punt the football. And if you're an Oakland Raiders fan, you know all too well what punting the football means. Your defense has to come back onto the football field. If you're a Raiders fan, that's a very, very bad thing. Because the next weakness is the Oakland Raiders defense. The Oakland Raiders were rated 27th against the pass, equally as bad against the run as they were ranked 27th against the run, which equals a 29th rated overall defense. Now, the Raiders have talent on the defensive side of the ball, but they don't make plays. They don't step up when plays need to be made. And for years, the Raiders have been getting gashed in the run game. It's what they do annually, give up runs in the run game. The Raiders have to be better in the defensive department. They just need to be better. This offense, for the last 2 years, has done enough to win enough games to go to the playoffs. But time and time again, the defense has let the offense down to the tune of an 8-8 record. The defense has to be better than 27th against the run, 27th against the pass, 29th overall. The defense has to step up and do its part to help the Oakland Raiders take the next step. And so we go on to camp battles. 27 must be a lucky number for the Raiders. They were 27th against the run, 27th against the pass, and they gave up over 27 points a game to opponents. You can't win many games in the NFL giving up a little under 4 touchdowns a game. You're just not going to do it. And the biggest problem for the Raiders is that they couldn't keep opponents out of the end zone. They gave up 53 touchdowns last year. That was second in the league, only behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were atrocious on defense. You can't give up touchdowns all the time. You have to make teams kick field goals. The Raiders did not do this in 2011. What the Raiders have to do is find ways to get teams off the field on 3rd down, force teams to kick field goals in the red zone, and be better defensively overall. They can do these things. Maybe the Raiders can be in a discussion in the AFC West. Until then, it's a weakness that they need to shore up moving forward. And we continue on with the camp battles. All right. The biggest question mark for the Raiders in my mind is at receiver. Wide receiver for the Raiders is a big question mark. After Darius Hayward-Bay, after Denarius Moore, who was only in his second year, so he's still an unproven commodity of some sort. You have Jacoby Ford in the slot, inconsistent and injury prone. But when healthy, he can be a pretty good slot guy, I feel. But after that, who do you have? Eddie McGee, Jerron Kreiner, Rod Streeter. Who are these guys? Question mark. I don't know. Who's your next receiver in line? If and when Jacoby Ford and Denarius Moore go down, who's starting? Who's going to step up? Eddie McGee? Who is Eddie McGee? Who's Rod Streeter? I don't know. You have to ask yourself as an Oakland Raider fan, do you have enough depth, quality depth at the receiver position, proven players that can get it done in this league to come in and give you some quality starts if your starters go down, which in Oakland seems to be a theme more so than a happenstance occurrence. We'll see. I'm questioning these receivers, though. The Raiders could use an upgrade at left guard and right tackle. Okay, the Raiders actually cut Cooper Carlisle and realized 5 days later, hey, maybe we need to hold on to Cooper Carlisle. So they brought him back. Khalif Barnes, he came in and said, I'm going to be the left tackle for the Oakland Raiders. You know what they said to him? You're going to be the right tackle for the Oakland Raiders. Just stay over there, do your best to not get the quarterback killed, and we'll talk to you later. They could use upgrades at both of these positions. They have young guys in both of these positions primed to take over. But instead, the Raiders are erring on the side of veteran caution and going with the veterans in Cooper Carlisle and Khalif Barnes. Now, Tony Bergstrom, rookie out of Utah, drafted to be a tackle, is more suited to play guard, ready to take over the spot that is now being held by Cooper Carlisle. Raiders aren't ready to relinquish that role to him yet. Maybe for good reason. But still, there's a changing of the guard that needs to take place, and Oakland Raiders fans are waiting. Same with Khalif Barnes. Joseph Barksdale, better known as Joe Barksdale, waiting to get his shot at right tackle. What are the Raiders waiting for to pull the trigger? Khalif Barnes is no world beater. He gives up sacks routinely. Joe Barksdale can do the same thing. Why not throw the young fella in there and give him a shot? Maybe it'll happen during the course of the 2012 season. We don't know. We'll see. We move on, though, to the rookie watch. And the Raiders and Al Davis, rest his soul, he was a guy who really didn't value draft picks that much. He was willing to give up draft picks in order to make things happen. So hence the Raiders, were a team that normally didn't have a lot of picks in the draft. This was the case in the 2012 draft. This wasn't Al Davis's doing, but rather ex-head coach Hugh Jackson's doing and trading for Carson Palmer. Now, while many thought that the Bengals got away with King's ransom, I thought it was a good deal for the Raiders. A team that, since Rich Gannon exited the building, has not had a guy you could call a franchise quarterback, a guy that you could say could take us where we're trying to go. And so I didn't have a problem with the move, even though they gave up a few picks for it. I was in favor of this move. But Carson Palmer needs to pay dividends in this trade. But All that aside, the Raiders didn't have a first or a second round pick because of that trade. So we go on to the rookie watch. And their first selection in the draft came in the third round, and we spoke to this already. This player is Tony Bergstrom, tackle out of Utah, someone that I think they're going to end up moving inside the guard because he's a finesse player. He's not someone that is going out to seek contact, but more of someone who is going to absorb it. He has good technical skills, can move his feet, can get in front of players and get in the way. But he's not going to overpower anyone. He's not going to show a explosion off the line and go out and blow someone back. He's just going to get in the way and do his job. And that's fine. That's all the Raiders need from Tony Bergstrom is to do his job. And so hopefully in the 2012 season, if Cooper Carlisle is not getting the job done, Tony Bergstrom will be ready to step in at that guard position. And hopefully for the next 5 to 10 years for the Oakland Raiders. You move on to the fourth round selection. This is Miles Burris, outside linebacker out of San Diego State. Here's a guy that is ready to play now. Hence, the Raiders are starting him at outside linebacker. Now, he's only starting because of the absence of Aaron Curry out at the linebacker position, and they don't know when he's going to be back. Aaron Curry doesn't know when he's going to be back. But really, the Raiders aren't too concerned. They would love to have Curry back. But Miles Burris, his ceiling, he's already reached it. He's at his best right now. He's not going to get any better as a football player. So whatever you're getting out of Miles Burris now is what you're going to get out of Miles Burris in 5 years. So why not play him now? See what he's going to do. Maybe he'll come in and be a spark, a shot in the arm in this defense. Who knows? But he's out there now. You're not hearing his name called. And so either that's one of two things. Either that's a great thing. That means he's not making mistakes. He's doing his job quietly and going about his business. Or two, he's not doing anything of note. He's not making any plays. And so he's just on the field. Either way, Miles Burris is a solid pick for the Raiders in the fourth round. Their fifth round selection, and they had two of them, defensive end Jack Crawford out of Penn State. This is an interesting pick because he's a raw talent. This is a 6'5" defensive end who started playing football pretty late. He's from Canada, so he never really got into the sport of football till he came over from Canada. He started playing towards his high school and latter years and then got into Penn State and played football. And so he's raw. He's got a lot to learn at the defensive end position. But he's very athletic. He's very tall. But he's lost right now. There's just a lot of things that he just doesn't get as a defensive end. He's not great at diagnosing plays right away. It takes him a long time to process what's going on during a play. And when you do that, you snooze, you lose. One false step or one move that you don't make, if you just freeze, if you're supposed to be in coverage, you're beat. If you're supposed to be stunting, you're picked up. And so that's all the difference in the world at defensive end. And right now, he's still learning. But if he can put it all together, he's a big man that can move really fast and create a lot of havoc because he's a long guy in the mold of a Jason Pierre-Paul. So if the Raiders can get this guy to buy into what the coaches are trying to teach him and learn and absorb all the material that they're giving him, Jack Crawford could be a player for the Oakland Raiders in maybe 2-3 seasons. Who knows? The second fifth-round selection was Jerron Kreiner, the receiver out of Arizona. I like this pick a lot for the Raiders. Now, I said earlier that who are these guys? I know Jerron Kreiner. I know he can be a player for the Raiders if given the opportunity. However, Jerron Kreiner did have an injury in college, something that you need to watch out for moving forward. He did have an ACL injury. That aside, the production, it speaks for itself in college. When given the opportunity, he can be inconsistent at times, as the case with every Raiders wide receiver aside from Denarius Moore, who just gets injured. But if he can be consistent, be a better route runner, continue to catch the ball like he did in college, grasp this offense and give it everything he's got every time he steps foot on the field. Jerron Crowder could be a great asset for the Oakland Raiders. And he's also a guy that can fall asleep when run blocking. Sometimes he's out there and he'll actually block a guy and block him good and spring a runner. And then there's times where he's just out there asleep at the wheel when run blocking. And so these are things he has to clean up if he wants to be a guy that's going to be a key contributor for the Oakland Raiders. 6th round selection, Christo Bulakidi. This is a small school Georgia State product that the Raiders like a lot. And the Raiders really don't have a lot of depth in that interior. And the Raiders get gashed quite often because of the defensive line. And so the Raiders look to address this with the addition of Budakidi. And I think he's not only going to make this roster, but he's going to be someone that they look to have contribute to this defensive line. Richard Seymour is getting up there in age. He's missing practices often because of arthritis or tendonitis in his knee. And so the Raiders are going to have guys step up and step in and be able to give them quality snaps at that defensive tackle / nose tackle position. And Bulakidi is definitely going to be someone that's going to see the field this year. How will he play? We don't know. Again, small school product, didn't play against elite talent, so it's hard to gauge what he's going to do. So you have to watch him on the field and see what he is about. You move on to the 7th round selection. This is Nathan Stupar, the outside linebacker at Penn State. Strictly a special teams move, in my opinion. I'd be surprised if he made the team. If he does, it shows that the Raiders really don't have a lot of depth at linebacker. Again, he's a core special teamer. If he does make the team, it'll be because of what he can provide on the special teams unit. But again, if the Raiders have any depth at linebacker, his addition to the team won't be necessary. And so you move on to the experiment. And I dubbed this experiment New Year, Same Raiders. And the reason why I dubbed the experiment New Year, Same Raiders is because this is a new year. And every year is a new year for the Raiders. But every year you get the same results. You get the same Raiders, the same penalty-infested team who is undisciplined, can't get out of their way, or who can't get out of their own way, who continues to get injured all the time at key spots. And just remember, and I think people fail to remember, the Raiders, after week 12, were 7-4 last year. For all intents and purposes, they had the division all but locked up. It was signed, sealed, and delivered Raiders. All they had to do was win 2 out of their final 5 games. And they went down the stretch and they lost 4 out of 5. It was funny because this is the way I see it. All the playoff teams were hanging out right around the entrance to the playoffs, just like you stand outside of an establishment. They were just all joking around with each other, the Patriots, the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals. All these teams were just out joking with each other right in front of the playoff entrance. And the playoff gods, the football gods just got perturbed. All right, look. Everybody who's going to the playoffs, you go head on in. Everybody else, get out of here. Scram. Beat it. And so all the playoff teams said, all right, guys, I'll see you later, to all the rest of the teams who weren't making it to the playoffs. And so the playoff teams started to walk into the building. And the Raiders, being the sneaky little devils that they are, they tried to sneak on in the back door when nobody else was watching. And they started to walk in with the rest of the playoff teams. And the football guy said, hey, Raiders, where you going? And the Raiders act like they didn't hear them, and they kept walking. And so, hey, where you think you going? Man, if you don't get out of here, snatched the Raiders up and told them, get out of here and go with the rest of those non-playoff teams. You know you don't belong in the playoffs. Get out of here. Scram. And so you get the same Raiders. New season, new year, same Raiders. Is this year going to be any different? New head coach, new GM, new everything. Maybe? Probably not. Probably not. So we move on to the research question, and it reads as follows. Can new head coach Dennis Allen get his players to buy into his system and pay immediate dividends? And is Carson Palmer the right man to lead the Raiders franchise moving forward? Now, I've already said I'm on board with the Carson Palmer trade. I thought it was a good move for the Raiders. I thought it was something to solidify them as a real playoff candidate in the AFC. And they needed, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have the prerequisite tools necessary to even be mentioned in the same breath with playoffs. Okay, that goes for any team in any conference in the National Football League. You don't have a quarterback, don't talk to me about the playoffs. And so the Raiders needed to address that. They did. Now they have a quarterback that used to be a top flight quarterback. He needs to get back to being that. Right now, Carson Palmer is a turnover machine. He needs to stop turning the football over and get back to being the Carson Palmer that led the Cincinnati Bengals to the playoffs and had them being one of the most dangerous teams in the league until he tore his knee up. Carson Palmer needs to step up and be the leader of this Raiders football team and the leader of this franchise, because they're looking for someone to take them to the next level. And he has to be the guy that does it. Head coach Dennis Allen, his job in all of this, being a defensive coach, is to get this defense on track. His sole purpose in year one is to rectify the problems that the defense has. I'm looking for a vast improvement from the Raiders on the defensive side of football in 2012. If not, I'm going to be very disappointed. And I know you don't get all of the tools that you're seeking in your first year as head coach. It's hard because there's a lot of turnover on the roster. You're trying to find your guys that fit your scheme. But still, if you're a defensive-minded coach, you take the parts that you have and make it work. And I'm looking for Dennis Allen to do that in the 2012 season. Hypothesis. If Carson Palmer can be more consistent and more conscientious with the football, the Raiders stay relatively healthy. New head coach Dennis Allen gets it as a head coach, and the defense actually plays defense. Then the Oakland Raiders could be players in the AFC West sooner than one might think. All those things have to happen and more. Okay, the Raiders are a team that's very needy. They need a lot of things to happen. Every team needs help, especially the Raiders, though, more so than most teams. They don't have a lot of depth. I've already told you the problems at receiver. They have two running backs that are prone to getting hurt. They let go of their one running back that they could count on to stay healthy. He's now in Chicago. Now you're relying on a running back, Mike Goodson, who not only did not carry the football all of last year, but likes to fumble as well. He fumbled 3 times in the 2010 season when he actually saw legitimate carries. And he's already fumbled a few times in the preseason this year. So you don't have depth in a lot of areas. If Carson Palmer were to go down, they don't have a guy that can step in as a backup quarterback. They don't have depth. So they need to stay healthy, especially at all the skill positions. There's no depth to speak of anywhere at the skill positions for the Raiders. So they need to stay relatively healthy. Dennis Allen, as a head coach, needs to get it. He doesn't have time to try to figure this thing out on the fly. He needs to come in and hit the ground running. You know when to pull out the challenge flag. Know how to manage the 2-minute drill in both halves. Know how to be a head coach that can take the pulse of the team and know when to go for it on 4th down and know when to punt or kick a field goal. He's got to get these things correct in order for the Raiders to take that next step. On to materials needed. And the first thing up is, hey, Carson, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop throwing interceptions. What are you doing? Stop being someone that you're not. You came into this league as an accurate thrower with a strong arm who is decisive with the football and can make all the throws to every portion of the field. You're still that guy. You're still that 6'5" Heisman Trophy winner from USC. You're just a little bit older, which means your game should be a lot more advanced than where it is now. And you need to step up. You're making a lot of bonehead decisions, a lot of overthrows, a lot of indecisiveness, not knowing where you want to go with the football, taking unnecessary sacks, making bad decisions that you're not supposed to be making. You're supposed to be a 62, 63% completion percentage guy who's throwing for close to, if not well over 4,000 yards. You're supposed to be throwing for well over 20 touchdowns and less than 15 interceptions. What are you doing throwing for 20 interceptions in a year? You can't turn the football over yourself 20 times. We're not even including fumbles. I'm pretty sure you had a few of those as well. Stop turning the ball over, Carson. Be better with the football. Be a better caretaker of the football and a better caretaker of this offense. Know when shots are there to be taken and take them. When they're not, dump it off to your back or get out of a bad play. But don't compound a bad play call with a bad throw. Not necessary. So again, I ask you, Carson, what are you doing? Get it together. The Raiders need you. They're counting on you. They spent a lot of picks to acquire you. Time for you to pay up. Moving on. Just find the sideline. I'm talking to Raiders running backs here. Let me get a little personal with you guys for a second. Darren McFadden, you're one of the most explosive backs in the league when healthy. You invent ways to get hurt. You fractured the orbital last year in practice with a helmet on in blocking drills. Hard for me to fathom how that happened. Don't care. You're a turf toe, calf, hamstring guy. You find ways to get hurt. You invent ways to miss time. If you have the choice between running through a defender and getting an extra 2 yards or tiptoeing out of bounds, find the sideline. For me, please. I'm not a Raiders fan, but I'm asking you. Find the sideline. Tywan Jones, you're a speedster with speed to burn. Okay? In a straight line race, there's not a lot of guys that are going to beat you. But you are the epitome of injury bug. Just a walking injury waiting to happen. You get a run, and because you're not running up the middle. You're looking to break everything outside, and for good reason. You're a frail body, fragile guy. Okay? So when you bounce it outside on that nice little sweep or a nice little stretch to the outside, and you get off that tackle, and you see that safety coming bearing down on you, and there's a linebacker right inside of him, so even if you make that safety miss, you're probably going to get pounded by that linebacker. Do me a favor. Find the sideline. Mike Goodson, he's already been escorted to the hospital one time this year. Raiders running backs, do me a favor. Try to play as many games as you can this year by just finding the sideline. Receiver roll call. And I feel like a substitute teacher when talking about this Raiders receiving corps. I call the roll. If I'm a substitute teacher and I'm calling the roll for the Oakland Raiders at receiver, it goes something like this. Darius Hayward-Bay. Hey, stop dropping your pencil on the floor. Pick your head up. Here. Denarius Moore. Denarius Moore. Guess he's not here. Jacoby Ford. Jacoby Ford. Guess he's not here either. Eddie McGee? Rod Streeter? Jerron Kreiner? Here. Who are you guys? Really, who are you? That's how it sounds when you're calling the receivers for the Oakland Raiders. Jacoby Ford and Denarius Moore are never present. They're never in the game. And it's a little harsh on Denarius. He played a lot of games last year, but he still missed his fair share of games. He's missed all of camp this year. So they're never there. Darius Hayward-Bay is dropping the football, and when he's not dropping the football, he's dropping his head down after making another bonehead play or not making a routine play. And then you got three guys that are essentially rookies and young guys who you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. They're just there. Good luck with that, Oakland. Hope you didn't stick your foot in your mouth on this one by getting rid of Lewis Murphy and Chaz Schillings like you had it like that. Good luck. Hope it works out for you. Dennis, you do defense, right? If I'm a Raiders fan, if I'm not a Raiders fan, which I'm not, I want to know. You do defense, right, Dennis Allen? Let me see you get this defense in order. Because this defense was putrid last year. It was a tough watch if you were a Raiders fan. There were games last year that you should have just flat out won, but didn't because of your defense. And you know what games I'm talking about. We'll speak about them a little bit later. But you know which one, especially which one comes to mind. And so if you're the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, if you're Dennis Allen, you have to come in and do the one thing that you're supposed to be good at, and that's coach up the defense. Last but not least, just win, baby. So eloquently put by the late, great Al Davis. Just win, baby. If you're the Raiders, just win. Just stack the wins up. And at the end of the season, sort it out and see how many of them you got in the left-hand column. Hope it's more than you got in the right-hand column. Hope it's enough to punch a ticket to the playoffs. That's all you can do. Just win, baby. All right, going on to the data. Carson Palmer, 3,985 passing yards, 27 to 30 TDs, 14 to 16 interceptions, 61.7% completion percentage. Darius Hayward-Bay. I've been hard on him, but last year, let's see if this was an aberration or was this a sign of things to come. I'm going to err on the side of caution here. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's growing as a receiver. Each year his numbers have gotten progressively better. So I'm going to assume that that is going to be a trend that is going to continue in 2012 and that he's going to continue to get better as a receiver. He just missed 1,000 yards last season. So let's see if he can crack that threshold and take that next step to being a true number one for the Oakland Raiders. Darius Hayward-Bay, 63 to 72 catches, 1,005 yards to 1,065 receiving yards, 3 to 6 touchdowns. Denarius Moore, he showed up on the scene last year and proved that he can make plays for this offense. Now, he wasn't healthy all the time, so he didn't have his talents on display as much as you would like if you were an Oakland Raiders fan. But nonetheless, you got a glimpse of what this guy can do for you. And so you just want Denarius Moore to play as many games as possible and continue on the torrid pace that he was on last year. 47 to 54 catches for 890 yards to 965 receiving yards and 4 to 7 touchdowns. Darren McFadden, 250 to 275 carries for 1,260 to 1,325 rushing yards, 6 to 9 touchdowns. Raiders defense forced 22 to 26 turnovers, 39 to 44 sacks, 20.5 points a game, and 7 to 9 plays of over 40 yards given up. That 20.5 points a game, that's a long way down. That's a touchdown lower than what you gave up a year ago. And in order for you guys to be engaged, you're going to have to give up less than 3 touchdowns, or at least right around 3 touchdowns. You might get away with about a shade over 22 but probably not much more than that. You guys need to scale that number down tremendously in order to have a chance. You're not a team that's going to put up 34, 31, 27 points every game. You're going to have to eke out games 23-20 and 21-17, and so you're going to have to be able to keep opponents under 3 touchdowns. If you can't do that consistently, you probably won't win as many games as you would like in the 2012 season. Honorable mention. And I threw this in there for the Oakland Raiders specifically because their special teams has been something of a bright spot for them in the return game. The Raiders, over the last 2 seasons, had the most kickoff returns of any team in the National Football League. And all of this is really attributed to Jacoby Ford. When he's in the game, when he's healthy, when he's right, he's one of the best kickoff return specialists we have in all of the National Football League. The Raiders have 3 kick returns for touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. No one else can say they have more. No one else can say they have the same amount. And so when the Raiders are right and Jacoby Ford is doing his job, the Raiders are dangerous in the kick return game. So look for the Raiders to try to continue this trend and continue to make teams pay for kicking the ball off and not getting touchbacks and allowing Jacoby Ford to get his hands on the football. So we go to the independent variable. And for the Raiders, it's simple. Just play better defense. Okay, this offense, if you look at it, is designed to win ball games. This offense can get it done and win games for you. And you look at some of the defensive numbers for the Raiders. 26 turnovers forced, 39 sacks on opposing QBs. Those aren't great numbers, but those aren't bad numbers either. You could do a heck of a lot worse. And so those numbers are good enough to get it done in the National Football League. So you ask yourself what the problem is on defense. And I'll tell you what the problem is. The Raiders lack substance on defense. And what I mean by that is getting stops when they matter most. Getting stops on 3rd down. Getting stops late in ball games to preserve leads. Getting stops to put a seal on a game. We talked about this earlier, and I said I was going to come back to this. I referenced it earlier. If you're a Raiders fan, the one game that epitomizes the lack of defense and the lack of substance that you have as the Oakland Raiders on the defensive side of football is the Detroit Lions game last year. At home, a game that if you win, you probably go to the playoffs. Up by, let's say, 9 in the closing portions of that game, you allow the Detroit Lions to score twice in a matter of 5 minutes, including about a 92-yard drive that capped a comeback that probably should have never happened, that you should have gotten off the field on several times. And so if you're a Raiders fan, games like that, they eat away at the pit of your stomach. Because if you are a better defensive team, you win that game and you go to the playoffs as the AFC West champions. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Instead, you blew your opportunity, and now that division is probably slipped away from your grasp, being that the Broncos have improved their roster, the Chiefs have gotten healthy again, and the Chargers, you can't expect them to continue to not be a player in the AFC West. So if you're the Raiders, you have to find a way to get more substance out of your defense. Become a defense that can buckle down on 3rd downs and get off the field. Become a defense that when the game is on the line, you rise to the occasion and get the stop that the team needs to seal the deal for a victory. And that moves us to our dependent variable, which is if the Raiders play defense and are able to have substance on the defensive side of the football, they're going to win more games. Like I said, this offense is ready to win now. Despite the turnovers that Carson Palmer had last season, the Raiders were in a number of ball games and had opportunities to win. A lot of them. They just couldn't seal the deal. And so when you look at this defense, if they're able to get off the field more often on third downs, get the ball back to the offense, you give the offense more opportunities to score. More points means more leeway to do what you want to do on the defensive side of the football. More points means teams have to throw the ball more, which means that 39 sack total goes up to 44. More pressure on the quarterback leads to errant throws, leads to forced fumbles, leads to more turnovers, shorter fields for your offense, more points for your defense to play with, more points for the defense to be able to have a chance to blow. At least if you're up 14, worst case scenario, with 5 minutes left, if you're going to blow it, you're up 14, you're going to overtime. Whereas if you're up 9, you have a chance to lose. More points, better defense, more wins for the Raiders 2012 season. Takes us to our constant. And the constant for the Raiders is penalties. Talked about it. I don't like to beat a dead horse. It's not moving. No need to keep hitting it with a stick. The Raiders have way too many penalties year in and year out. Dennis Allen has come in, and the first thing he's trying to instill, as every Raiders coach promises to do, is to instill discipline. And he's starting it at meetings, finding guys for being late to dinner and lunch. It may seem small in the grand scheme of things, but these are small things that add up, and in a bigger picture are exactly what the Raiders need. They need some form of discipline, some form of some kind of structure that lets them know it's not okay to skate and cut corners on the small things that lead to bigger problems down the road. Maybe this is exactly what they need. Either way, the constant for the Raiders has been penalties, and they need to get better at this, which is what people have been saying for the last decade. So me saying it is not new news to the Oakland Raiders. From there, we get to the conclusion, and it's really simple for the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders need to get better at two things. Less penalties, better defense. These are two things that are holding the Raiders back right now as a team, as a franchise. Forget about the talent aspect. That'll come. When you're under a new regime with a new GM and a new head coach, it takes time to build talent. The Raiders have enough of it in their starting position. And the two things you need in the NFL is depth, talent. You bring those two together, and you have a match made in heaven. The Raiders have the talent. You just need the depth to bring it together. So that'll come. But in the meantime, with the talent that you have, you need to be disciplined and you need to play better defense. And with that being said, the Raiders were going in the right direction. They were 8-8 the last two seasons. Probably should have made the playoffs and won 9 or 10 games last year. They blew it. But you could see what was building. The wheels were turning. Everything was starting to go into motion. And then they wanted to just blow the whole thing up. And they needed to. Let's be honest. The organization needed a change. Al Davis passed away. And the reins on his franchise was kind of released when Al Davis moved on to greener pastures. And so moving on from Al Davis, they needed to start this thing over. And they're doing it the right way. But when you start over, or when you try to reinvent your franchise, you have to take a step back in most instances. And I expect the Raiders to do the same thing. Before you can take 2 steps forward, you have to take 1 step back. And so I have the Raiders going 6-10 this year. They play a tough schedule. That division plays a tough schedule. You got the NFC South and the AFC North. It means you're getting Pittsburgh, you're getting Baltimore, you're getting Cincinnati, who's now a good football team. You're getting the Falcons, you're getting the Saints, you're getting the Panthers, who are a dangerous team now. It's a tough schedule. Not to mention having to play your division Yeah, with Peyton Manning now, with Phillip Rivers and him trying to get back to where he was, and the Chiefs getting all their stuff back. It's a tough schedule, 6-10. This could easily be a 7-9, 8-8 ball club, but everything would have to go right, and the ball would have to bounce their way, and they would have to stay healthy. It's a lot of ands. I could go on and on and on. At the end of the day, the Raiders are a 6-10 ball club this year. And again, you're taking steps in the right direction, so it's not the worst thing in the world. And that'll do it for the Oakland Raiders. After this break, we'll come back and we'll get to the Kansas City Chiefs right after this break.
Lab quiz. Lab quiz.
All right, we're back, and we're back with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs are an interesting team because they were a division winner 2 seasons ago. And last year, just the bottom fell from under this team. And when I say the bottom fell, I mean everything fell out. Everything that was inside of that container, it just leaked out. And Todd Haley, I think, was largely to blame for everything falling out of the bottom of the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Sure, we could talk about the injuries, and they played a major role as well. But Todd Haley is a coach that wears thin on players. And I don't really like his coaching style too much. He's an in-your-face guy. He spits on you when he's talking because he's so demonstrative when he talks. He's cursing at you constantly. And after a while, some guys can take that, but everyone can't. And after a while of being berated and being told you're not doing this well, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, you strike back. You revolt against that stance and that coach. And I thought that's what the Chiefs did to a certain extent last year. They got tired of, especially you can see Matt Castle was tired of Haley riding him, berating him, and just killing him when he came off the field if something didn't go right. And Matt Castle is the type of guy who doesn't take overt criticism well. Maybe if you do it in a sort of a roundabout way, he's better about it. But when you just come up to him and tell him, you flat out stink, you're not getting it done, that receiver was open, you have to make that throw, what are you doing? He doesn't respond well to that. And they got into it several times last year. And I thought Todd Haley was a lot to blame for what went on last year. And so I thought him getting out of there, them getting him out of there was a good move. So you talk about the old first or worst to first ploy that coaches employ and put upon their players to kind of give the team that, hey, why not us feel? Why can't we be, the 2010 Arizona Cardinals or 2009 Arizona Cardinals, excuse me. Why can't we be that team that comes out of nowhere and gets it done? What happens when you're that team that goes from first to worst? What happens? What do you say when that happens? Just ask the Kansas City Chiefs from 2011. They can tell you all too well. They went from a 10-6 team that won the division to a 7-9 team that was the bottom feeders, the AFC West. And so there's a lot of things that have to go wrong for you to go from the top of your division to the bottom. I spoke to one of the things I thought was a big reason. Another was the injuries that they incurred last year. But one thing you can't blame is the pass defense. Don't blame that. Because the Chiefs were ranked 6th in the National Football League in pass defense last year. And they had 20 interceptions. They got turnovers. They made plays on the football. They were a good team defending the pass. And arguably, without their best player in the secondary in Eric Berry, one of the best young, strong safeties we have in all of National Football League, he was out from week 1. And they did all of this without him. And so that speaks volumes and is a testament to how good this Chiefs secondary was. Now, in 2012, they'll be without one of their good players in that secondary, Brandon Carr, who moved on to the Cowboys in free agency. And so they replaced him with a division rival, Stanford Routt from the Oakland Raiders. He's going to come in and start at that corner position opposite Brandon Flowers. And so you look at this secondary, you get the re-addition of an Eric Berry back to your secondary. Kendrick Lewis, the free safety, was playing great ball across from him. You don't get good secondary play without good safety play. Kendrick Lewis was a good player for the Chiefs last year. You also look at Brandon Flowers, one of the better young corners in all of pro football. He doesn't get talked about much because he plays in Kansas City. Easy to ignore him, easy to look the other way, but he's playing good football. And then you get Stanford Routt, a guy that is probably the best face guarder in all of the National Football League. And he'll be looking to take his talents to Kansas City and looking to pull one over on these replacement refs and get away with his face guarding technique. It works. If he turns his head around slightly, maybe they won't call it. Either way, the secondary is going to be good again in 2012. And that's the strength for the Kansas City Chiefs. You move on to their weaknesses. And doesn't it seem like the Kansas City Chiefs select defensive linemen in the first round of the draft every year? At least since 2008. Look at Glenn Dorsey, look at Tyson Jackson, now Dontari Poe. Doesn't it seem like they spend a first round pick on a defensive lineman? So you would understand that their defense is ranked 26. You would think, what? Wait, what? 26? How did that happen? You're spending first round draft choices on defensive linemen. How did you end up 26? It's a good question to ask yourself. When you keep pulling the same type of defensive lineman in on your ball club and expecting them to just do what they did in college, it happens. They don't learn from their mistakes. They're like the Detroit Lions of the early 2000s. They keep drafting the same type of receiver. They don't learn from their mistakes. They end up spending 6 picks on the same position until they finally hit a home run. Is Dontari Poe that guy? Early reports out of camp say no. But what are early reports out of camp? Not much. Just early reports out of camp. And so he had all the time in the world to mature and get better as a football player. But if he's anything like the other guys, look, there have been reports out of Kansas City that Tyson Jackson is in trouble and in danger of getting cut. I think that's nonsense. I don't think he's going anywhere. But just the fact that we're talking about him possibly being cut off of this roster because of the money that he makes, and he's taking a pay cut. That's how bad it's been for him. He's taking a pay cut already because he realizes he makes much money, and he's underperforming. If Dontari Poe is anything like him, they're in trouble, and they'll be looking for another first-round defensive lineman next year. But let's hope that's not the case, because the Kansas City Chiefs' run defense was porous last year. Ranked 26, like I've already said. And that stems a lot from the defensive line. And when you play a 3-4 defense, your nose tackle has to be an anchor of that defense, taking on double teams, clogging up the middle, making it hard to run between the tackles. They don't have that. Your defensive ends have to be stout in the run game, stout at the point of attack, set the edge, push everything inside, filter it into the defensive tackle who's clogging it up. It's not happening. So the Chiefs, defensive line, first round picks, front seven, all that good stuff, they need to step up and stop the run. 26th in the league is not good enough for a defense that was ranked 11th in all of football last year, whose pass defense was 6th in the league. They're getting it done on third downs because they're stopping teams from throwing the ball, but you're allowing teams to get in third and manageable because of what they're doing on first and second down. You have to stop the run. And I feel like Romeo Crennel, in his first full season as head coach, is going to address that immediately. Being a defensive-minded coach, being a guy who likes to see defense start from within and work its way out, as all coaches should. You start from the defensive line and work your way out. They have to be better than, I think Romeo Crennel will look to address that. And they weren't the only problem on this Chiefs team. They weren't the only reason they went from 10-6 to 7-9. This offense was pretty bad in 2011. Pretty bad to the tone of 27th overall as a total offense. They were able to run the football pretty effective even without Jamal Charles. 15th in the league. Middle of the pack is not terrible when you're missing your leading rusher. But their inability to throw the football and score points was mind-boggling last year. Get this. The Chiefs averaged 13.1 points per game last year. That's anemic offense. We're talking a touchdown and 2 field goals. You have teams that score that in the first half of the first quarter. They didn't manage to do that for whole games at times. So we're talking about an offense that struggled to score, struggled to put points on the board. And so this offense has to be better. When the Chiefs are playing good football, they can beat anybody in the league, as evident of them beating the Packers last year, giving the Packers their only loss during the regular season last year. A game in which they only scored 13 points. Again, speaking to my point of them not scoring points. But that goes to show you that when the defense is playing ball, they can play with anybody. They can limit the amount of points you score on the offensive side of the football. But that doesn't give the offense a right to be anemic and only put up 13 points. No excuse. So the offense has to be better. And that is definitely a weakness for the Chiefs. And hopefully getting all of their stuff back. Getting back Jamal Charles. Getting back Tony Moriarty. Adding Peyton Hillis to your roster. Hopefully all those things help bolster your offense and bolster that roster and give you a chance to score more points. And be the team that you were in 2010 when you were the number 1 rushing team in all of football and playing off of that run game with play action fake. You need to get back to that. Run the football and run it more, and then play action fake off of it when they look for the run. We move on to the camp battles, and the Chiefs really don't have any camp battles to speak of. Now, they had one going into camp between Ricky Stanzi and the newly acquired Brady Quinn for the backup quarterback position. But looks like Brady Quinn has all but sealed that up. There's even talk of Ricky Stanzi not even making the roster now. And new offensive coordinator Brian Daboll has come in, and Brady Quinn is familiar with him, so I thought he had the leg up in his competition to begin with because he was an offensive coordinator in Cleveland. He comes over to Kansas City with Romeo Crennel. Of course, Romeo knowing him from Cleveland. And so they have ties, and Brady has ties to him. He knows the offense. And so he's familiar with what's going on. And so I thought he had a leg up. He's performed well in the preseason, and Stanzi looks like a guy that's incapable of playing a quarterback position. He went from a guy that was, folklore in Kansas City to a guy who was just like, damn, what happened? So, hey, that was the camp battle. That is a camp battle no more. So we move on to the rookie watch. And the Chiefs' first round selection, Dontari Poe, defensive tackle out of Memphis. We've spoken to him about him already. We spoke about him. And I'll just tell you that this is a big man that wowed a lot of people in his pro day at the combine, throwing up a lot of reps on the bench, running a ridiculous time for a guy his size. This is a 6'5", 360 defensive tackle. So he's got the requisite size to be a menace inside, to do all the things that you need your defensive tackle to do. Now it's just a matter of getting him to show up. And they said that his tape at Memphis, it wasn't all that appealing. It wasn't what you would expect from a guy valued this high in the draft, but still, you can't deny the measurables. You can't deny the things that he has and that he brings to the table. You can't teach height. You can't teach the ability that he has, the quickness with that weight, and the strength that he has. He has to just put it all together is what he needs to do. And that's what Romeo Crennel and that coaching staff will be looking to do with Dontari Poe, their first round selection out of Memphis. You move on. And the Chiefs took offensive tackle Jeff Allen out of Illinois with their second round pick. And this is a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to kick inside. Again, much like Bergstrom for the Raiders, here's a lineman. It's not an explosive lineman who's going to get off the ball and move guys back. He's going to get in the way. He's going to move his feet. He's going to be sound in his technique. He's going to do everything that it takes to try and keep his quarterback clean, to try and open up lanes for his running back. But he's not going to blow people up. He's not going to move people off the ball. But he's a sound guy. He's sound in his technique. He's sound in what he does. And so I can see them kicking him inside to guard. And really, the left guard position, right guard for the Chiefs last year was a question mark because they had the old Colt veteran Ryan Lilja at right guard. And he had a bad year by his standards. He'll tell you himself, I had a porous year. I was not good at right guard. And that might be the age talking. He's getting up there in age. He was out there at right guard for the Colts for many years. And he was a linchpin on the offensive line for the Colts. And so there's a lot of tread on those tires. And so Jeff Allen coming in and being drafted and being versatile and probably being able to kick in to guard, I wouldn't be surprised if he took over at some point in the 2012 season for Ryan Lilja. If he plays anything like he did in 2011, look for Jeff Allen to get some time at right guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on to their third round selection, Donald Stevenson, a tackle out of Oklahoma. Here's a guy with a lot of upside. He's a very solid tackle, if not for the depth along that offensive line, especially at the tackle position, and with Brendan Albert and newly acquired Eric Winston out at the tackle positions. Stevenson could be a guy that probably could have started day one for the Kansas City Chiefs. But he's got good guys to learn behind. And in the event someone goes down, he'll probably be the first guy that they look to turn to. If he comes along as fast as the Chiefs would like, he could be somebody that could provide great depth and down the road could be a contributor, a key contributor for the Kansas City Chiefs. So you move along to their fourth round selection. And I love this pick. I think this is going to probably be the pick of this draft that we turn around and in 5 years say, that was a heck of a pick. That was a steal for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm talking about Devon Wiley, the smallest, quick receiver out of Fresno State. Again, I compare everyone in the slot to Wes Welker. He is the preeminent slot guy in the league right now. And so anytime, look, this dude has everything that Wes, he's white, he's quick, he's fast, he's faster than Wes Welker. He's small just like Wes Welker. And so the comparisons go on and on and on. But his production at Fresno State was marred by injury. And this is a guy that has all the attributes you look for in a slot guy. He's 5'9", shifty as hell, runs a 4.3 40, and can catch the ball naturally with his hands. Everything about this guy screams playmaker on the field right now, can get it done. All he has to do is stay healthy. And Matt Castle has to deliver him the football in a way that allows him to run after the catch and use that speed. I love this pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see if he pays the dividends that I think he is going to for the Kansas City Chiefs. 5th round selection, Daquan Menzie, the cornerback out of Alabama. To me, this is a boundary corner. He looked good playing at Alabama because he was on a team full of athletes. He's not overly athletic to me. He's not fast. He's a taller guy, but he's not overly athletic. And you think Alabama, you think of athletic guys. To me, he doesn't fit the mold. You know, he's not a Kirkpatrick. He's not a Mark Barron. He's the other guy on that defense. And so I think he's solid, but with the logjam at corner, at safety, with what the Chiefs have going on in their secondary, I can't see Daquan Menzie being a key contributor for them right now. He can come in and play some special teams and show the coaches he has other value and come along as a defender in that secondary, maybe. But if he can't show the coaches there's added value there with special teams, among other things, it's going to be hard for him to crack this 53-man roster. 6th round selection, Cyrus Gray, running back out of Texas A&M. There's another guy that I watched quite a bit of. Being a Redskin fan, I was scouting Ryan Tannehill hard and often last year. And while doing so, I happened to run into Cyrus Gray. And he was part of a backfield between him and Christian Michael. That was a good backfield. You know, solid runner, big and stocky and thick, can change pace. His problem is he has speed, but you don't see it on game day. He's a 4.40 guy, but you don't see it when he gets in the game. For his size, for his stature, he doesn't run as tough as you would like. But all those things aside, he's a solid back. Can get you yards if blocked well. And so in this league, I think he can be an asset to the Chiefs or some other team if he doesn't latch on with the Chiefs. They have a crowded backfield right now, and so he's going to have to find a way to make a roster, if not the Chiefs, because he can't make an impression on this roster at running back. They already have McCluster. The addition of Hillis, get Jamal Charles back. I just don't see them keeping 5 backs, including a fullback. They just cut their fullback, so I take that back. They might have space for him. Who knows? We'll see. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on and see if he makes this team. 7th round pick. They had 2 of them. Defensive tackle Jerome Long out of San Diego State. And wide receiver Junior Hemingway out of Michigan. All right, the defensive tackle out of San Diego State. Big guy, athletic, can move, can play that defensive tackle spot. I see him more as an end, projecting as an end in that 3-4 scheme. And again, when you play a 3-4, these linemen have to be interchangeable. They have to be flexible, be able to play the nose and, the tackle positions be able to come in and nickel packages and rush the quarterback. You have to be versatile as a defensive lineman. See if Long can provide that kind of versatility that Romeo Crennel is looking for if he wants to make this team. A lot of times when you play a 3-4, your defensive linemen are a big part of what you do. And so you carry 7, 8, 9 guys on the defensive line for depth because it's necessary. Have these guys be interchangeable and rotate in and out and keep fresh bodies in there so that guys are fresh at the point of attack. So let's see if he can crack that roster. If not, they might stash him on the practice squad and work with him and see if he can develop down the road. Signing guys like Ritua Puapati, which is the big 6'8" defensive lineman that came from the Jets. So them signing guys like him makes it that much tougher for a guy like Long to crack the roster. You move on to Junior Hemingway. Here's a guy that at Michigan had good size, made plays, but again, when you're in a offense with the type of quarterback that Michigan has in Robinson, that runs around and kind of plays backyard football, helter-skelter, it's hard for you to show off any skills you may have because that kind of game doesn't translate to the NFL. I don't see route running when you're running down the field 30 yards and then just running side to side trying to get open until he decides to fling it 40 yards down the field and you got to go up and make a play. That's not a route. That's not in the playbook in the NFL. Go run 40 yards and then turn around and then run sideline to sideline until I throw it. That's not a play in the NFL. So it's hard for NFL scouts to really break down Junior Hemingway on film, on tape, and see what he's about. But he's got skills, but he's got a lot to learn because of the offense he played in at Michigan. And he's got a long way to go. And this receiving core is on the cusp of being one of the top flight receiving cores in the league. If everybody on the roster on that receiving corps taps into their full potential. You got Jonathan Baldwin. He is looking like someone that can be a really big problem in the AFC West. He's got the size. He's got the leaping ability. He's got huge hands. He can make plays. We know what Dwayne Bowe is about. Steve Breston is an absolute monster on third downs. He's sort of like a Steve Smith, a guy that on 3rd and 5 will get you 7 every time. Knows how to find the sticks, and he's shifty, and he gets it done. I love Steve Breston. I told you how I feel about Devon Wiley. This is shaping up to be a solid receiving core, and so Junior Hemingway is going to have a tough time cracking that receiving corps. But he's going to have to come in and show the team that he can do other things and provide an element that no one else provides or does it better than other players on that receiving corps to make the team. So that takes us to our experiment, and I titled this experiment The Last Experiment, all 32 teams. I titled this one Chiefly Responsible. And the reason I titled this Chiefly Responsible is because I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs, as players, were chiefly responsible for a lot of the things that happened in the 2011 season. I feel like they were chiefly responsible for the firing of Todd Haley, 3/4 of the way through the season. I felt like they were chiefly responsible for the hiring of Romeo Crennel. They played, tough, gritty, hard-nosed football and got some really big wins toward the end of that season, which really put the Chiefs brass in a bind to say, hey, we got to give this guy a shot. Thought they played Romeo Crennel into a job. And so I felt like they were chiefly responsible for that. And I felt like they were chiefly responsible for the product that they put on the field last year being a 7-9 team that underachieved and could not repeat as AFC West champions in a division that 8-8 won the division last year. And so I thought they were chiefly responsible for a lot that went on last year. So that's why this is titled Chiefly Responsible. So you move on to the research question. Is the second time the charm for Romeo Crennel, and is Matt Castle a starting NFL quarterback in this league, or was 2010 his ceiling and the Chiefs need to look elsewhere? I thought that Romeo Crennel got a raw deal in Cleveland in his last season. I thought they went 10-6. They didn't make the playoffs 1 year prior to him being fired, and I thought that he just got railroaded out of town, and he was the scapegoat for everything that was going wrong in Cleveland at the time. And I thought that he got a raw deal. I thought that they got rid of him prematurely, and that I'm very excited that he has another opportunity to show what he can do. As much along the lines of Bill Belichick, who also was a failed experiment with the Cleveland Browns, I think his second time is going to be the charm. I think this is the opportunity. This is a perfect fit for him. A low-profile job in an area, in a division where it doesn't take much to get it done. And so Romeo Crennel is a quiet, steady, easygoing guy. I think Kansas City is a market that allows for that type of personality. And I feel like he's going to do well as the Kansas City Chiefs coach. And I think he's a defensive mind that is underrated in the National Football League. Romeo Crennel knows how to coach up defense. He knows how to scheme it up. Ask the Green Bay Packers, who were scoring 35 points a game last year. What happened when they ran into the buzzsaw that was the Romeo Crennel coached Kansas City Chiefs defense? He scored 7 points. And when he's coaching and they're playing at a high level, that defense, something to look out for. You go to Matt Castle, and he worries me. I don't trust Matt Castle. He has to show me. He plays in Missouri, the show me state. Show me what you're about. I need to see it. Show me what you can do. I need to see it, because I don't buy it. I don't believe that you're a good, serviceable starting quarterback in this league. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times. But I know if I'm wrong on this one. I don't trust you. Let's see if you getting a running game back helps you go back to 2010 when you threw for 27 touchdowns and only 7 picks. Let's see if you can show not only myself, but the rest of the league and your teammates and this organization that you are a starting quarterback that is ready to take over and take them to the next level. So you move on to the hypothesis. If Matt Castle can have a replay of 2010, injury contributors return better, and this offense matches the defense's production, then the Kansas City Chiefs can surprise many and win the AFC West in 2012. And this is going to surprise people that I say this. I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs are the most primed to challenge the Denver Broncos for the AFC West division crown. To some, that may not seem like a big statement. To others, that may seem like it's coming out of left field. But I feel strong about this Kansas City Chiefs team. I feel like last year, a lot of things were going on, a lot of moving parts. And they had a lot of injuries at key positions, and it just went downhill from there. Now they have a coach who is more concerned with calling plays than calling names. And they have their players back who can make a true difference on this team. They added Peyton Hillis. I feel like they should be able to run the football effectively and run it into the ground. I'm talking about take the air out of the ball. The ball should be flat like a safety when they're done with it. They should take the air out of the football and then go play action fake, go up top to Dwayne Bowe and Jonathan Baldwin. Find Devon Wiley over the middle. Find Steve Breston. Find Moyaki. I feel like they have weapons everywhere you look. And they can be a dangerous team in the AFC West if everything happens the way that the Chiefs are going to draw it up for the 2012 season. You go on to materials needed. Matt, who are you? Who are you, Matt Castle? Answer me this. Who are you, Matt Castle? I'm confused. Are you the guy from 2010? I need to know. I'm not sure. Are you the guy from the 2006 Patriots? Or excuse me, the 2008 Patriots? I need to know. Are you the guy from 2011? Are you the guy from 2009? I'm confused. Help me to understand who you are, because I don't know right now. Show me what you're about. I feel like this is a make or break season for you. Show me. Show me what you are. Are you a starting caliber quarterback in this league, or are you a backup? And that's fine if you're a backup. Show me that you're a backup. I guarantee you will have a job for the next 6 years as a backup in this league, if that's what you are. But if you're a starter, now's the time to say so. Here's your chance. So, Matt Castle, I ask you once more, who are you? I need to see it in 2012. Here's your chance, Romeo. And look, as a head coach in this league, you often get a second chance, especially if you're good. No, not good, great at what you do. The good ones don't get another chance. They go be a coordinator or they go to college or something. The great ones come back the second time smarter for having failed the first time. And they come back hungry and they get it right. You have some coaches who get second and third chances and then they're just not head coaches. That could be you, Romeo. That could be you. But I don't see that as being you. I think you have what it takes to be a good head coach in this league. Someone that can be the head coach of a franchise for 7 years. And I think this is a perfect fit for you. So here's your second chance, Romeo. What are you going to do with it? If you can't succeed under Scott Pioli, who knows you well from the New England Patriot days, if you can't succeed under him, I don't see you being able to hold down a head coaching job in the National Football League again. You'll be a coordinator. And that's fine, too, because you're great at that. But you're a head coach. I think you have what it takes. So here's your chance, Romeo. Make it count. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. If you're a Chiefs fan, that's what you're singing to Jamal Charles, Tony Moyaki, and, of course, Eric Berry. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You couldn't wait for these guys to lace them back up and get back on the field. You were missing Jamal Charles last year. The big play element in your running game. You scored 13 points a game. I don't have to tell you that you were missing guys who could make a difference on the offensive side of the football. You were missing that big play element. Teams weren't afraid of your run game. Jackie Battle, that was nice. But he wasn't going to run for a 67-yard touchdown. He wasn't going to catch a screen and run for 57 yards. He was nice. He was going to get you 4 yards when it was blocked for 4 yards. Tony Moyaki, he was a threat in the red zone. He was a threat over the middle of the football field. He's a welcome addition back to this football team. A target that Matt Castle loves to throw to. Who doesn't like throwing to the tight end? Nice little safety valve. A nice little blanket, if you will. Nice to have a good tight end who can get it done. Over the middle of the field, outside the hashes, in the end zone. Always good to have a tight end. And Tony Moyaki was starting to assert himself as one of the better tight ends in the AFC West. So, good to have him back. And, of course, Eric Berry. You want Eric Berry back in your secondary. You want him making plays. He made plays for the Chiefs in the 2010 season in his rookie campaign. And they need him to come back stronger than ever in 2012 and be the force that he was in his rookie season and help lift this secondary and defense to even newer and bigger heights in the 2012 season. So again, Chiefs fans welcome back all of these players off of injury. You move on. D lineman roundup. And I say that in all honesty, talking to these first-round defensive linemen, Dontari Poe, Tyson Jackson, and Glenn Dorsey. And look, Glenn Dorsey has been playing better of late. I think he realizes what his niche is in the National Football League. I think he tried to come in and overwhelm people like he did at LSU, and then he realized I'm not as big as I thought I was when he got to the NFL. No longer am I this mammoth, behemoth of a defensive tackle that guys can't move, and that I'm just more athletic than them, and I can split double teams and overpower people and get in the backfield. They welcomed him to the NFL with a firm slap. Man, sit down. Who are you? Who do you think you are? This isn't LSU. This isn't the SEC. You know, he was getting pushed around. Now he realizes what he is. He's a smaller defensive tackle, defensive end, that needs to be knifing in, using his quickness, using his athletic ability to get in the backfield and be disruptive. He's not going to overpower a lot of people. And he needed to realize that. When you're athletic, mix up your moves. Show your athleticism. Scare them with that first. Then the bull rush seems to be even more hard to stop. But when you just try to come with a bull rush and you're not the strongest bull in the fight, it's like pushing a brick wall. It's not moving anywhere. And so these offensive linemen in the NFL are smart. And if they feel like they can neutralize you with a punch or neutralize you with a double team, they're going to do so. And that's what they did to Dorsey. That's what they've done to Tyson Jackson. That's what they're going to look to do to Dontari Poe. And these first-round picks, these former and current first-round picks, all need to step up for the Kansas City Chiefs, because being 26th in rush defense isn't going to get it done. And it all starts with the defensive line up front. And those horses, they have to be able to do their job and do it adequately to free up these linebackers to make plays. You can't do that, and you have no place on the field in a 3-4 defense. Moving right along. Offensive time machine. If you're the Chiefs, you want to take your offense and put it back in the time machine. And we're not even talking about 2004, 2005 time machine, back with the Priest, Holmes, and Larry Johnson time machine. And we just talking 2010 time machine. We just talking, Matt Castle, 27 touchdowns, 7 interception time machine. And we talking Jamal Charles over 1,400 yards rushing time machine. We talking big plays from this Kansas City Chiefs offense time machine. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for best offense in the league, when they were 2004, 2005 with Trent Green. No, we're not looking for that. We're looking for number one rush offense, solid passing game off the play action fake. If you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you just want to see them go back into time to 2010 and start getting it done when they won the division. You just want to see them go back into the offensive time machine and go back a couple of years. That's it. Data. Matt Castle, 2,975 passing yards, 22 to 25 touchdowns versus 12 to 14 interceptions, 60.2% completion percentage. Dwayne Bowe, 78 to 86 grabs, 1,155 to 1,205 yards receiving, 8 to 12 touchdown receptions. Jamal Charles, 225 to 240 carries, 1,285 to 1,345 rushing yards, 6 to 9 touchdowns. Peyton Hillis, 190 to 210 carries, 685 to 775 rushing yards, 5 to 7 TDs. Dexter McCluster. And just notice, I named all three the backs for the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is indicative of what I think they need to do to win. Run the football. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands. These backs are explosive. McCluster and Jamal Charles especially, to take it to the house at any time. Get the ball, whether it's a screen, a draw, a pitch, whatever, off tackle. Get these guys the football. Run the ball. Peyton Hillis, you get in the red zone, let him pound the rock. You get in short yardage, let him pound the rock. These guys need breathers. Let Peyton Hillis run the rock. Go play action fake off of it. Let Matt Castle survey the field and find Dwayne Boat. Find Baldwin down the field making big plays. That's what this offense needs to be. Dexter McCluster, 80 to 90 carries, 470 to 530 rushing yards, 47 to 55 grabs for 400 to 465 receiving yards. He's your all-purpose guy. Get him the football as well. 2 to 4 touchdowns total. Chiefs D, force 29 to 32 turnovers. Get 30 to 34 sacks. Limit opponents to 20.3 points per game. Average 6 to 8 plays of over 40 yards for the season. That's what you look for if you're the Chiefs. Keep it manageable in all categories, and you'll be fine. You're a good defense already, looking to improve and become a great defense. Independent variable. The Kansas City Chiefs just need more production from their offense. All the parts that they're getting back from injury and in free agency, they just need more production from this offense. The defense was ranked 11th last year, 6th against the pass. This defense was good enough to win the division last year. It was there for the taking. But the offense just wasn't up to par with the defense, and they weren't able to get it done. And so really what you're looking for, if you're a Chiefs fan, is for this offense to step up and be a shell of themselves, mainly that 2010 season. You need Castle to step up and show that he is your starting quarterback. You need Jamal Charles to look healthy and show no ill effects of that injury. You need Moyaki to come in and be the guy that he was turning into before the injury. You need all these guys and more to step up. You know what you're getting out of Dwayne Bowe. Let's see Jonathan Baldwin continue to progress. Let's see, all these weapons you have, Braxton and Wiley and all these guys continue to work. Let's see this offense get better. And most importantly, let's see points be put on the scoreboard. You can rack up all the yards you want, but if you're not putting touchdowns on the board, you're kicking field goals, you're still going to find yourself in a precarious position come the end of the game. Score touchdowns, give this defense a chance to do what it does best. Stop teams from throwing the football on them. You give this team a 14, 17-point cushion, and now a team has to throw the football. You're playing right into the hands and the strength of this defense. Score more points, and this team will win more games. And that's the dependent variable. If you score more points, this defense is great at pass defense. Teams will have to pass the football. You're playing right into the strength of the Chiefs' defense. They had 20 interceptions last year as a team. And so what that says is that they make plays on the football. It's not easy to throw the ball on this team. And again, they did all of this without arguably their best player in the secondary. So that speaks volumes to how good this secondary can be. And so if you're the offense, scoring points is pivotal to having this team get to where they want to go in the 2012 season. So you move on to the constant. And the constant for the Kansas City Chiefs is Arrowhead Stadium. This is a stadium that is hard to win if you're an opposing team. It's loud. It's red. It's funny because I look at that stadium and it seems like no one sells their tickets. It's all Chiefs fans. Everyone has on red or everyone has on white. You might see one blue short shirt here or there, but for the most part, it's a sea of red or a sea of white. Everybody's in unison. Everybody's out in support of the Chiefs. And that's what makes a stadium hard to compete in for opposition, when you're not giving away tickets to opposing teams. You're not selling your tickets on StubHub or one of these other sites. You're showing up to the game and supporting your team and making it hard on the other team. They're loud. They're raucous. And that's a hard place to play. And Arrowhead's been that way for a lot of years now, over 2 decades. And so Arrowhead is the constant for the Kansas City Chiefs. You move on, last but not least, to the conclusion. And the Kansas City Chiefs have a great opportunity in front of them. They have a great opportunity to sneak into the playoffs while nobody's watching. No one's looking. Everybody is focusing on the AFC West champions from a year ago, the Denver Broncos. And not because of what they did last year, but because of what they did in the offseason, acquiring Peyton Manning. Everyone's looking to the Denver Broncos to take hold of that division and be back-to-back division champs. And rightfully so. If Peyton Manning is healthy, this is a formidable team now. But that doesn't mean that the Kansas City Chiefs aren't still a good football team. They won the division 2 years ago for a reason, because they have talent and an abundance of it. And so if they can get their talent to come back healthy, and the guys that were healthy to perform at the level that they did in 2010 and be better under new head coach Romeo Crennel, this team can sneak under the radar and win the division. Because only one playoff spot most likely is coming out of the AFC West. I see 10 wins winning this division. And so 9 wins isn't going to get it done. And so the Chiefs have an opportunity in front of them to sneak under the radar, quietly and confidently win games, and at the end of the season look up and see their name atop of the AFC West Conference, or division, excuse me. And so it's imperative that the Chiefs stay healthy, as with the case with every team, but also be better on the offensive side of the football. Now, this schedule is tough. I've already spoke to the AFC West having a tough schedule. And 9 games isn't going to get it done. 9 wins isn't going to get it done. And that's exactly what I have the Chiefs winning. 9 games, 9-7. However, if the ball bounces in the favor of the Kansas City Chiefs, this is a 10-win team. If Castle performs at the level that he needs to perform at, if Jamal Charles and Peyton Hillis and Dexter McCluster are all able to have, great seasons, solid seasons, good seasons. If this defense is able to keep up the pace that it set last year and be better at run defense, this is a team that if they get the ball to bounce their way, recover a few fumbles that they didn't get in 2011, get their hands on a few balls that went right between the defenders' hands last year, slap them down on 3rd and 7 instead of letting it be a completion and continuing to drive. If they get the ball to bounce their way, Chiefs could easily find themselves in the playoffs. But as of right now, I have them at 9-7. And that's right on the outside looking in. And finally, that is going to do it for the lab reports. Hallelujah! 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 We made it through that treacherous, arduous climb through all 32 teams in the league, but we've done it. We've created and went through 32 teams lab reports and experiments for all of them. We are done. That is it. Now you are up to speed on all 32 teams in the league. You are ready to start the 2012 NFL football season, and you have all the ammunition you need ready to go. The only thing left now is to discuss rosters. And we are down to 75 now. After the weekend, teams had to start chopping down their rosters. And so after today, just about everyone will be down to 75 players from 90. And then shortly thereafter, on Friday, everyone has to turn in their 53-man roster. So now that is our next step. Chopping up and breaking down these rosters, because let's face it, as an organization, as a coaching staff, for the most part, of your 53-man roster, you already know 44 of your players, maybe 45. The last 8 are the ones that you agonize over, the ones that you nitpick and, oh, this guy does this guy brings this to the table. We don't need to keep this many here because we want to keep this many there. This is when you get to the numbers game, when you get down to the last 8. And so, for the most part, coaches already know who's going to be on their roster aside for those last 8, 5 to 8 slots. That's when it becomes tough. Of course, you got your 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. You got your specialists, your kicker, your long snapper, your punter. That's 25 players right there. And so you got to think that they already know depth-wise at certain positions. We're keeping this guy, we're keeping that guy, we're keeping this guy, we're keeping him. And so that number gets to right around 40 or so. And so you got to know that when you get to the 53-man roster, 45 of these players have already been decided. And so that's the next goal in the lab room, is to start talking about who's going to make the team, who's not going to make the team, and what it means for them moving forward. And that's what we'll look to do in these next few episodes as we go on our countdown to 53. So I thank you for joining me. And that was a touchdown. I just tacked on the extra point. I'm so excited. I'm pumped up. I'm jacked because I just finished my last lab report, my last experiment. And so that means the season is upon us now. We're just mere days away now. We're a week or so out from the start of the National Football regular season. And so it's go time. And so with that being said, that's going to do it for me in the lab room on this Monday. What a gorgeous day it's turned out to be. I can smell it. Football's right around the corner. And I thank you for joining me. Again, you can contact me through the inbox at inthelaproom@gmail.com. You can like me on Facebook. Shoot me a message on Facebook, In the Lab Room. Also on Twitter, In the Lab Room. That's the Twitter handle. I thank you for joining me. As always, I'll see you same time, same place. I'm out of here. See you tomorrow.